I came back from my trip with my heart racing, eager to surprise my husband and tell him that I had inherited a penthouse from my grandfather. But as I entered, I heard laughter behind the door of our bedroom. I froze, hidden in the hallway. What I saw next, my husband kissing my stepmother, froze my blood. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stood there, my carry-on bag still in my hand, my grandfather's lawyer's business card pressed between my fingers. The laughter kept coming, light and easy, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Like I was the fool who'd been traveling back and forth to Boston for months, sitting in hospital rooms and then funeral homes, while they made themselves comfortable in my bed. I backed out of the hallway, slowly, one step, then another. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my keys. I made it to the front door, opened it as quietly as I'd closed it, and walked back out into the bright Seattle afternoon like I'd never come home at all. My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old. I worked, I guess, because I don't know what anything is anymore, as a senior project manager for a tech consulting firm downtown. I have a degree from the University of Washington, an apartment in Capitol Hill that I thought was ours, and a marriage that I thought was solid. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 4, no kids yet, but we'd talked about it. He said he wanted to wait until we were more financially stable. I said okay. I always said okay. I met Derek at a friend's birthday party in Fremont. He was charming, funny, attentive in a way that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. He worked in sales for a mid-sized software company, made decent money, drove a nice car. He fit. He fit into my life, into my friends' lives, into my family's life. My dad liked him. My stepmother loved him. That should have been the first red flag. My stepmother, Vanessa, married my dad when I was 19. My mom had passed away when I was 17. Cancer, quick and brutal. And my dad remarried within 2 years. I didn't blame him for wanting companionship. I blamed him for choosing her. Vanessa was 38 when they got married. My dad was 55. She was beautiful, polished, and hungry for a lifestyle she hadn't earned. She smiled at me like we were going to be best friends, and then slowly, methodically, began erasing my mother from every corner of my father's life. Photos came down. Recipes disappeared. Even my mother's favorite coffee mug, gone. But I kept my mouth shut. I played nice. I showed up for holidays, brought wine, complimented her tasteful redecorating. I built a life separate from theirs. I built a life with Derek. And now, standing outside a coffee shop 2 blocks from my apartment, staring at my phone, I realized I'd built my life on a foundation that never existed. I didn't go back inside. Not that day. I sat in that coffee shop until the barista started wiping down tables and giving me polite looks that meant, "We're closing." I ordered another latte I didn't drink. I stared at my grandfather's lawyer's card. I thought about the penthouse, a place I hadn't seen since I was a kid, a sprawling space in one of Boston's oldest buildings, overlooking the public garden. My grandfather had been a quiet, methodical man, an architect who'd made his money designing libraries and museums. He'd never remarried after my grandmother died. He'd lived alone in that penthouse for 30 years, surrounded by books and blueprints and memories. And now it was mine. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd inherited a home while discovering I didn't have one. I checked into a hotel that night, a boutique place near Pike Place Market, the kind of spot where no one asks questions if you show up with a suitcase and a blank expression. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to cry, but nothing came. I felt hollow, carved out. I kept seeing them. Derek's hand on her waist, her head tilted back in laughter, the way they moved together like they'd choreographed it. How long had this been going on? I pulled out my laptop. I logged into our bank accounts, our credit cards, our shared cloud storage. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I needed to look. I needed to see the shape of the lie I'd been living. It didn't take long. There were charges I didn't recognize. Dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. Hotel rooms in Vancouver, Portland, even one in San Francisco. Plane tickets for 2. Flowers sent to an address I didn't know. Vanessa's condo. I realized after a quick search, she'd kept her place after marrying my dad. For independence, she'd said. For meetings with my husband, apparently. I found photos. Not explicit ones. They were too smart for that. But enough. Derek and Vanessa at a restaurant I recognized from one of those credit card charges. Derek and Vanessa on a hiking trail I knew he'd told me was a work retreat. Derek and Vanessa sitting on a couch that looked a lot like the one in her condo, his arm draped across the back, her leaning into him. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to call him, call her, call my father and burn it all down. But I didn't. Because somewhere, beneath the rage and the heartbreak, a voice in my head said, "Not yet." I opened the laptop again. I took screenshots of everything. I downloaded bank statements, credit card bills, every photo, every receipt. I created a new folder on my desktop, password protected, and labeled it Evidence. I sent copies to a secure email account I'd set up years ago for work documents and had barely used since. Then I called my grandfather's lawyer. His name was Richard Gaines, a man in his late 60s with a kind voice and a reputation for being meticulous. We'd spoken briefly at the funeral, where he'd handed me the business card and told me there were some things to discuss regarding the estate. I hadn't pressed him. I'd been too numb, too focused on getting through the service and the reception and the flight back to Seattle. "Ms. Hartwell," he said when he answered, his tone warm but professional. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you so soon." "I need to know everything," I said. My voice was steadier than I felt. About the penthouse, about the inheritance, everything. There was a pause. Then, "Are you all right?" "No," I said, "but I will be. Can we meet? Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow's Sunday," he said gently. "Then Monday. First thing." Another pause. "All right, my office, 9 a.m. I'll have everything ready." I hung up. I sat there in the dark hotel room, the city lights flickering through the window, and I let myself feel it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the sharp, jagged edges of a life that had just shattered. I let myself sit with it for exactly 10 minutes. Then I got up, washed my face, and started making a list. The next morning, I texted Derek. Short and simple. "Staying at a friend's place for a few days. Need some space. Don't worry about me." He replied within seconds. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I spent the rest of the weekend alone. I walked through Pike Place Market, watched the fish throwers, bought flowers I didn't need. I sat by the waterfront and stared at the ferries cutting through the gray water. I didn't think about Derek or Vanessa. I didn't let myself. I thought about my grandfather instead. The way he used to take me to the public garden when I visited. The way he'd point out architectural details on buildings and tell me stories about the men and women who'd designed them. He'd believed in structure, in beauty, in building things that lasted. I thought about my mother, too. The way she used to braid my hair before school. The way she'd hum while she cooked. The way she'd told me near the end, "Don't let anyone make you smaller, Emma. Not ever." I'd let Derek make me smaller. I'd let Vanessa erase my mother. I'd let my own silence become complicity. Not anymore. Monday morning, I flew to Boston. Richard's office was in a stately brick building near Beacon Hill, the kind of place that smelled like old wood and leather-bound books. He greeted me with a firm handshake and a look that said he knew something was wrong, but wouldn't pry. "Thank you for seeing me," I said as we sat down in his office. "Of course." He slid a thick folder across the desk. "This is everything. The penthouse, as you know, is yours outright. No mortgage, no liens. It's worth approximately $3 $2 million in the current market. Your grandfather also left you a trust, liquid assets, stocks, bonds. Another $8 million managed conservatively. It's set up to provide you with a steady income if you choose, or you can liquidate. There are some smaller bequests to charities, but the bulk of the estate is yours. I stared at the folder. $5 million. A penthouse in Boston. A life I hadn't known was waiting for me. There's one condition, Richard said carefully. Your grandfather specified that the penthouse cannot be sold for at least 5 years. He wanted you to live in it, if you chose, to experience it. He believed it might offer you something you needed. I looked up at him. Did he know? Richard's expression softened. Know what, Ms. Hartwell? That I'd need it. He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, your grandfather was a perceptive man. I left Richard's office with a key in my hand and a plan forming in my mind. I walked to the public garden, stood in front of the penthouse building, and looked up. 14 floors, corner unit, windows that caught the afternoon light. I could see my life there. A new life. One I built myself. I flew back to Seattle that night. I didn't tell Derek I was coming. I walked into the apartment at 9 p.m., calm and composed. He was on the couch, watching TV, a beer in his hand. He looked up, surprised. Emma, I didn't know you were... We need to talk, I said. And for the first time in 6 years, I didn't say, okay. I said, I know. The color drained from Derek's face. He set the beer down on the coffee table. Slowly, carefully, like he was buying himself time to think. You know what? I didn't sit down. I stood in the middle of our living room, my carry-on bag still in my hand, and I looked at him like I was seeing him for the first time. Maybe I was. I know about Vanessa. The silence that followed was so thick I could feel it pressing against my skin. Derek's mouth opened, then closed. He stood up, his hands raised in that universal gesture of innocence that guilty people always use. Emma, I don't know what you think you... I saw you, I said. My voice was steady, calm. It surprised even me. I came home 3 days ago. I was going to surprise you, tell you about the inheritance. Instead, I stood in our hallway and watched you kiss my stepmother in our bedroom. He went pale, then red, then pale again. Emma, listen to me. No. I held up my hand. I'm not listening to anything right now. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting with a divorce attorney. I've already made the appointment. I have documentation of every hotel room, every dinner, every plane ticket you've charged to our joint accounts. I have photos. I have dates. I have everything I need. You went through my things? His voice cracked with indignation, and I almost laughed. Almost. Our things, I corrected. Joint accounts, remember? The ones you were so insistent we keep combined because it was easier and showed trust. I made air quotes with one hand. And something in that gesture, something in the casual cruelty of it, seemed to break through his shock. He stepped toward me. Baby, please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. It happened. And I didn't know how to stop it, and... How long? He stopped. What? How long has it been going on? I kept my eyes locked on his. A month? 6 months? A year? Since my dad married her. His silence was the answer. I felt something crack inside me, but I didn't let it show. I couldn't. Not yet. Get out, I said quietly. This is my home too, Emma. You can't just... The lease is in my name. I've been paying 70% of the rent for the past 2 years because your commission structure changed. Remember? I tilted my head. And before you try to argue, I've already called the landlord. You have until Friday to remove your belongings. After that, I'm changing the locks. You can't do this. His voice rose, panic bleeding through. You can't just throw me out like I'm nothing. We're married, Emma. We have a life together. Had, I said. We had a life together. You destroyed it. You and my stepmother destroyed it while I was taking care of my dying grandfather. While I was sitting in hospital rooms and planning a funeral. My voice finally cracked, just a little, but I pulled it back together. You don't get to be the victim here, Derek. You don't get to make me feel guilty for protecting myself. He tried a different approach. His expression shifted, softened. He took another step forward, his hands reaching for me. Emma, please. I love you. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I love you. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Don't touch me. I stepped back, and he froze. And don't lie to me anymore. You don't love me. You love what I gave you. Stability, respectability, a nice apartment, and a wife who didn't ask too many questions. But that's over now. I turned toward the bedroom. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with my attorney. I suggest you find one too. I walked away, closed the door, and locked it. Then, and only then, did I let myself cry. The attorney's name was Monica Reyes, and she came highly recommended by a colleague at work who'd gone through her own messy divorce 2 years prior. Monica's office was in a sleek high-rise downtown, all glass and clean lines, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm and her eyes were sharp. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a legal pad. I did. I laid it all out. The relationship, the discovery, the evidence I'd gathered. I showed her the screenshots, the bank statements, the photos. She took notes, her expression neutral and professional, but I caught the slight tightening of her jaw when I mentioned Vanessa. Your stepmother, she repeated. The one who's married to your father. Yes. And your husband has been involved with her for how long, do you estimate? At least 2 years. Maybe longer. Monica set down her pen. Emma, I'm going to be very direct with you. This is going to get ugly. Affairs are never pleasant in divorce proceedings, but when the affair involves a family member, especially one connected to your father, it complicates things emotionally and sometimes legally. Are you prepared for that? I don't have a choice, I said. You do, she corrected gently. You could choose to file on irreconcilable differences, keep it quiet, split assets, and move on. It would be faster, cleaner. And let them get away with it? I shook my head. No, I want it documented. I want it on the record. I don't care if it takes longer. Monica studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right, then that's what we'll do. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, which means the affair won't affect the legal outcome of the divorce itself, but it can impact things like asset division, especially given the financial documentation you have showing misuse of joint funds. We can argue for a larger share of marital assets based on dissipation, essentially that he wasted marital resources on the affair. What about the inheritance? I asked. The penthouse and the trust, can he claim any of it? No. Inheritances are considered separate property, not marital property, as long as you don't commingle the funds. Don't deposit the money into your joint accounts. Keep everything separate. In fact, I'd recommend opening a new bank account in your name only, today if possible. I nodded, making a mental note. One more thing, Monica said. Your stepmother. Are you planning to tell your father? I'd been avoiding that question since the moment I walked out of the apartment 3 days ago. I don't know. Think about it carefully. Once you tell him, you can't take it back. It will fracture your family, what's left of it, and it may not go the way you hope. What do you mean? Monica leaned back in her chair. Sometimes people choose to shoot the messenger instead of confronting the betrayal. Your father may not believe you, or he may believe you and choose to stay with her anyway, or he may blame you for exposing it. I've seen it all. Just be prepared. I left her office with a retainer agreement signed and a court date scheduled for the initial filing. I felt lighter and heavier at the same time, lighter because I was taking action, heavier because I knew the worst was still ahead. Derek was gone when I got home. The apartment felt echoey and strange without him. I walked through the rooms, taking inventory. He'd already started packing, boxes stacked in the corner of the bedroom, his clothes pulled from the closet. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Emma, I'm staying with a friend. I need space to think. Please don't do anything rash. We can still fix this. I love you. D." I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Then I called my father. He answered on the third ring, his voice warm and familiar. "Emma, sweetheart, how are you? I've been meaning to call you. How was Boston? How's everything with the estate?" "Dad, I need to talk to you, in person. Can we meet?" There was a pause. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "No," I said. "Everything's not all right, but I need to tell you face to face. Can you come to Seattle, or I can come to you?" He lived in Bellevue, just across the lake, 20 minutes away. "I'll come to you," he said. "Tonight, if you want. Vanessa has book club anyway." Of course she does, I thought bitterly. "Tonight's fine. 7 o'clock? I'll be there." I spent the afternoon cleaning the apartment, which was ridiculous because my father wouldn't care if it was messy, but I needed something to do with my hands. I scrubbed the kitchen counters, vacuumed the living room, folded laundry that had been sitting in a basket for a week. I made coffee. I stared out the window at the Seattle skyline and tried to figure out how to tell my father that his wife was sleeping with his son-in-law. There was no good way. He arrived at 7 sharp, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing the worried expression he always got when he sensed something was wrong. My dad was 61 now, his hair mostly gray, his face lined but kind. He was a high school history teacher, the kind who genuinely loved his job and his students. He was steady, reliable, and he'd been so lonely after my mother died that I couldn't entirely blame him for falling for Vanessa's act. But I could blame him for not seeing through it. "Emma." He hugged me, tight and long. "What's going on? You sounded upset on the phone." I gestured to the couch. "Sit down, Dad, please." He sat, still holding the wine bottle like he wasn't sure what to do with it. I took it from him, set it on the coffee table, and sat down in the armchair across from him. "I'm filing for divorce," I said. His face fell. "Oh, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. I know how hard. Derek's been having an affair." My father's expression shifted from sympathy to shock. "What? Are you sure?" "I'm sure. With who?" I took a breath. This was it. The moment where everything changed. With Vanessa. The silence was deafening. My father stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He blinked, once, twice, like he was trying to process the words and couldn't quite make them fit into reality. "That's not possible," he said finally. His voice was flat, distant. "Dad, I saw them. I came home 3 days ago and found them together. I have photos, bank statements, hotel charges. It's been going on for at least 2 years." "No?" He stood up abruptly, his hands balled into fists at his sides. "No, Emma, you're mistaken. Vanessa wouldn't. She loves me. She wouldn't do that. Dad, you're upset. You're hurt. I understand that. But you're lashing out, and you're accusing Vanessa of something she would never. I'm not lashing out." I stood too, my voice rising to match his. "I'm telling you the truth. I know you don't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it either. But it's true." He shook his head, backing toward the door. "I can't listen to this. I won't. Vanessa has been nothing but kind to you, and this is how you repay her? By spreading lies?" "They're not lies," I shouted. "Dad, please just listen to me. I need to go. He grabbed the doorknob, his face flushed. I need to talk to Vanessa. I need to hear her side. Her side. I felt something inside me shatter. Dad, there's no side. She's been sleeping with my husband. Your wife has been sleeping with my husband. That's the truth. That's the only side. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Doubt. Not in Vanessa. In me. I can't believe you'd do this, he said quietly. I can't believe you'd try to destroy my marriage because yours is falling apart. He left. The door closed behind him, and I stood there in the middle of my empty apartment, my hands shaking, my chest tight, and I realized that Monica had been right. Sometimes people choose to shoot the messenger. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but I couldn't. I felt numb, hollowed out. I sat on the couch and stared at the wall until the light outside faded and the apartment grew dark. My phone buzzed. Texts from Derek, from my father, from Vanessa. Derek, your dad called me. He's furious with you. What did you say to him? My father, I'm very disappointed in you, Emma. We need to talk when you're ready to be rational. Vanessa, I don't know what you think you saw, but you're tearing this family apart. Derek loves you. Your father loves me. Stop this before you ruin everything. I turned my phone off. Then I booked a flight to Boston. I landed at Logan at noon the next day. Richard met me at the penthouse with the keys and a warm smile. Welcome home, Ms. Hartwell. The penthouse was exactly as I remembered it. High ceilings, hardwood floors, tall windows overlooking the public garden. It smelled like old books and lemon polish. My grandfather's furniture was still there, covered in sheets. His bookshelves lined the walls, filled with architectural volumes and classic novels. There was a grand piano in the corner, dusty but beautiful. It needs some work, Richard said, walking me through the space. Updating, refreshing. But the bones are solid. Your grandfather took excellent care of it. I stood in the middle of the living room and turned in a slow circle. This place was mine, no one else's. No shared lease, no joint accounts, no compromises. Just mine. I want to move here, I said. Richard raised an eyebrow. To Boston? Yes. What about Seattle, your job? I can work remotely or find a new job. I have the trust. I'll be fine. I looked at him. I need a fresh start, Richard. I need to be somewhere that's mine. Somewhere they can't touch. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, I'll help you however I can. I spent the next week in Boston, working with Richard to set up everything I needed. I opened a new bank account at a local credit union. I transferred the trust funds into it, keeping everything separate from anything Derek could claim. I hired a cleaning service to deep clean the penthouse, and I met with a designer to start planning updates, paint colors, furniture, drapes. I wanted to honor my grandfather's memory, but I also wanted to make the space mine. I called my boss in Seattle and explained the situation. Not the whole story, just enough. Family emergency, major life changes. I needed to relocate. She was understanding. She offered me a remote position with a slight pay cut, and I accepted on the spot. I called Monica and gave her updates. The divorce was moving forward. Derek had hired his own attorney, and they were pushing back on the asset division, claiming I was being unreasonable. Monica laughed at that. Let them push, she said. We have the documentation. They don't have a leg to stand on. I didn't call my father. He didn't call me. I didn't call Derek either, except through attorneys. But Vanessa called. Over and over. I let every call go to voicemail. I listened to them once. Late at night, sitting on the floor of the penthouse with a glass of wine and the lights of Boston spreading out below me. Emma, please pick up. We need to talk. You're making a huge mistake. Derek loves you. Your father is devastated. This isn't who you are. Emma, I don't know what Derek told you, but you're misunderstanding everything. Please, let's meet. Let's talk this through like adults. Emma, you're being selfish. You're hurting people who love you. Is that really what you want? I deleted every message. 2 weeks after I arrived in Boston, I got a call from Monica. Derek's attorney reached out, she said. They want to settle. What are their terms? 50-50 split of all marital assets, no alimony, and he walks away. He's also willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement stating he won't discuss the affair publicly. Why would he offer that? Monica paused. My guess? He's scared. Either your stepmother is pressuring him to keep it quiet, or he's worried about his reputation. Either way, it's a good deal for you. You get half of everything, you get out clean, and you don't have to drag this through court. What do you think I should do? I think you should take it. Fighting this out in court will cost you time, money, and emotional energy. This way, you can move on. I thought about it. About Derek, about Vanessa, about my father, about the life I'd left behind in Seattle. Take the deal, I said, but add one condition. I want a written statement from Derek acknowledging the affair and its duration. Not for court, for me. I want it documented. He'll never agree to that. Try anyway. He agreed. 3 days later, I received a notarized letter from Derek's attorney. In it, Derek admitted to the affair with Vanessa, confirmed its duration, 2 years and 4 months, and acknowledged the financial misuse of marital funds. It wasn't an apology, it wasn't an explanation, but it was the truth in writing, and that was enough. I signed the settlement agreement. The divorce would be finalized in 60 days. I felt like I could breathe again. I stayed in Boston. I made the penthouse mine. Fresh paint, new furniture, art on the walls. I kept my grandfather's piano and his bookshelves, but I filled the shelves with my own books, my own things. I started working remotely, taking long walks through the public garden in the mornings before logging on. I joined a yoga studio. I found a coffee shop I liked. I started building a life that was just mine. One afternoon, about a month after I'd moved in, I got a call from my father. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. You were right, he said. About Vanessa, about Derek, about everything. I didn't want to believe it, but I hired a private investigator and... His voice broke. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I sat down on the couch, my hand pressed to my chest. What are you going to do? I already filed for divorce. She's moving out this week. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted you. I was a coward, and I'm sorry. Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me, he said quickly. I just needed you to know that I know, and I'm sorry. We sat in silence for a moment, the line crackling between us. I'm in Boston, I said finally. I inherited Grandpa's penthouse. I'm living here now. Boston. He sounded surprised. That's good. That's really good, Emma. He would have liked that. Yeah, I said softly. I think he would have. Can I visit sometime, when you're ready? I thought about it, about forgiveness, about family, about second chances. Maybe, I said. Not yet, but maybe. That's fair. He cleared his throat. I love you, sweetheart. I should have said that first. I love you too, Dad. We hung up. I set the phone down and looked out the window at the city below. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The public garden was full of people, couples, families, joggers, tourists. Life moving forward. I thought about my mother, about my grandfather, about the women I'd been and the woman I was becoming. I thought about the penthouse, this place my grandfather had left me, and I realized it wasn't just a home. It was a foundation, a place to rebuild from, a place to start over. And for the first time in months, I felt something that wasn't pain or anger or fear. I felt hope. The first few months in Boston were quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. Not the comfortable quiet of contentment, but the stark, echoing quiet of starting over. I'd wake up in the morning in my grandfather's bed, my bed now, and for a few seconds, I'd forget where I was. Then the light would filter through the tall windows, casting shadows across the hardwood floors, and I'd remember. Seattle was behind me. Derek was behind me. That version of my life was over. I threw myself into work. Remote consulting meant long hours staring at my laptop, video calls with clients across 3 time zones, project timelines, and budget spreadsheets that kept my mind occupied. My boss had been skeptical at first about the arrangement, but I'd proven myself quickly. I was more productive in Boston than I'd ever been in Seattle. Maybe it was the lack of distractions. Maybe it was the fact that I had something to prove to myself, if no one else. I started running in the mornings, a habit I'd never had before. I'd loop through the public garden, past the swan boats and the make way for duckling statues, through the Commonwealth Avenue Mall with its canopy of elm trees. Boston in early autumn was beautiful, crisp air, leaves turning gold and red, the kind of weather that made you feel alive. I'd come back to the penthouse sweaty and breathless, make coffee, shower, and log on to work. It was a routine. It was stability. It was mine. But the quiet had a way of creeping in during the evenings. When the work was done and the city sounds drifted up from the street below, that's when the thoughts came. The questions. The what-ifs. What if I'd confronted Derek sooner? What if I'd seen the signs earlier? What if I'd never gone to Boston for my grandfather's funeral? Never inherited this place? Never had an escape route? Would I have stayed? Would I have convinced myself it was salvageable? That love could survive betrayal if you just tried hard enough? I didn't like those questions. They made me feel weak. So I filled the evenings with other things. I read mystery novels, memoirs, poetry I didn't entirely understand but found comforting anyway. I taught myself to cook properly, not just the quick dinners I'd thrown together after long days at the office, but real meals. Braised short ribs, homemade pasta, an apple tart that took 3 hours and tasted like my mother's. I'd sit at my grandfather's dining table, my table, and eat slowly, deliberately, savoring each bite like it was a small act of defiance. I joined a book club at a shop in the South End. The owner, a woman named Margaret with silver hair and bright red reading glasses, had invited me in one Saturday when I'd been browsing the shelves. "You look like someone who needs a place to belong," she'd said, not unkindly. I'd shown up to the first meeting not knowing what to expect and found a group of 8 women, ranging from late 20s to early 70s, all sharp and funny and opinionated. We read everything: literary fiction, thrillers, essays, the occasional romance. We drank wine and argued about characters and themes and whether the ending was earned. It was the first time in months I'd felt like a person, not just a woman recovering from betrayal. One of the women, a lawyer named Diane who worked in family law, cornered me after a meeting in late October. "You've got that look," she said, refilling my wine glass without asking. "What look?" "The look of someone who's been through the ringer." She tilted her head, studying me. "Divorce?" I hesitated, then nodded. "How could you tell?" 20 years of practice." She smiled, but it was kind. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. But if you ever do, I'm around. And I mean that off the clock. Sometimes it helps just to talk to someone who's seen it all." I thanked her, and we left it at that. But a few weeks later, when the walls of the penthouse felt like they were closing in and the quiet was too loud, I texted her. We met for coffee, and I told her everything. Not the legal details. Monica had handled all of that. But the emotional aftermath, the anger, the grief, the strange, disorienting freedom of being untethered from the life I'd thought I was building. Diane listened without interrupting, without offering platitudes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "You're going to be okay. I know that doesn't feel true right now, but it is. The fact that you left, that you didn't stay and try to fix something that was broken beyond repair, that takes strength. A lot of people don't have that." I didn't feel strong, I admitted. I felt terrified. Terrified and strong aren't mutually exclusive. She smiled. "Trust me. You're going to look back on this someday and realize it was the best thing you ever did for yourself." I wanted to believe her. In November, I got an email from Vanessa. I'd blocked her number months ago, along with Derek's, but email was harder to police. It sat in my inbox for 2 days before I opened it. I told myself I wouldn't read it, that nothing she had to say mattered anymore. But curiosity, or maybe masochism, got the better of me. Emma. I know you don't want to hear from me, and I understand why. I'm not writing to make excuses or to ask for forgiveness. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. What happened between Derek and me was wrong. I won't insult you by trying to explain it or justify it. There is no justification. Your father and I are divorcing. He told you that, I think. I don't blame him. I don't blame you either for telling him the truth. You had every right to. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed your trust, your marriage, your relationship with your father. I know that saying I'm sorry doesn't fix any of that. But for what it's worth, I am sorry. And I hope, someday, you can find peace. Vanessa. I read it 3 times, looking for hidden meanings, for manipulations, for anything that would give me a reason to hate her more than I already did. But it was just sad. A sad, hollow apology from a woman who'd blown up her own life along with mine. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I saved it in a folder labeled Archive and closed my laptop. Thanksgiving came and went. My father had invited me to visit him in Seattle, but I wasn't ready. I told him I had work commitments, which was half true. He didn't push. Instead, he sent me a care package, a box full of things that had belonged to my mother, her favorite scarf, a cookbook with her handwritten notes in the margins, a photo album I'd never seen before, filled with pictures of her as a young woman, before she'd met my father, before I was born. She looked happy, free. I spent Thanksgiving alone in the penthouse, cooking a small turkey and roasting vegetables, listening to Joni Mitchell and drinking wine. I set a place for my mother at the table, just her photo propped against a wine glass, and I told her everything. About Derek, about Vanessa, about the penthouse and the new life I was building. I told her I was trying, that I was scared but hopeful, that I missed her. It felt good to say it out loud, even if no one was there to hear it. December brought snow. Boston transformed into something out of a postcard. White rooftops, the public garden blanketed in fresh powder, the swan boats tucked away for the winter. I bought a tree, a small one that fit in the corner of the living room, and decorated it with ornaments I found at a vintage shop in Cambridge. My grandfather's piano sat silent nearby, and one evening, on impulse, I sat down and tried to play. I wasn't good. I'd taken lessons as a kid but hadn't touched a piano in years. But I fumbled through Silent Night and Clair de Lune, and it felt like a kind of meditation. I started thinking about the future, not in the abstract, someday way I'd thought about it when I was with Derek, but in concrete terms. What did I want? Who did I want to be? I wanted to stay in Boston. That much was clear. The city felt like mine in a way Seattle never had. I wanted to keep working, but maybe pivot into something that felt more meaningful. I'd been a project manager for years, coordinating teams and timelines, but I'd never loved it. It was just a job. What if I went back to school, got a degree in something I actually cared about? art history, architecture, something that connected me to my grandfather's legacy. I started researching programs. I drafted emails to admissions offices. I let myself imagine a version of my life where I wasn't just surviving, but thriving. And then, in mid-December, my father called. "Emma, I need to tell you something." His voice was strained, and my stomach dropped. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Physically, I mean. But He paused, and I heard him take a shaky breath. "Vanessa's pregnant." The world tilted. "What?" "She's pregnant. About 4 months along, she says. She told me last week, right before the divorce was finalized. She claims it's mine, but Emma, I don't—" His voice cracked. "I don't know if I believe her. The timeline doesn't make sense. Things between us had been strained for months, even before you told me about Derek. You think it's Derek's," I finished, my voice flat. "I don't know, but I needed you to know. In case she reaches out to you, or if Derek doesn't know," I said. It wasn't a question. I could feel it in my bones. Not as far as I know. I sat down on the edge of the couch, my free hand pressed to my forehead. "Dad, I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you have to deal with this again. I just didn't want you blindsided." "Does she want you back?" He laughed, bitter and hollow. "She says she doesn't expect anything from me, that she'll handle it on her own. But Emma, if that baby is mine, I can't just walk away. And if it's Derek's—" He trailed off. "Then it's his responsibility," I said firmly. "Not yours, not mine." "I know, but it's complicated." "It doesn't have to be." I stood up, pacing across the living room. "Get a paternity test. As soon as the baby's born, get a test. Until then, don't make any promises. Don't let her manipulate you into anything. You owe her nothing, Dad. Less than nothing." "You're right," he sighed. "You're absolutely right. I wanted you to know. I didn't want to keep anything from you again." "Thank you for telling me." We hung up, and I stood there in the middle of the penthouse, staring out at the snowy city. And I felt the old anger rising up again. Not the sharp, fresh anger of betrayal, but something deeper, colder. The anger of realizing that some people will never stop taking, never stop creating chaos, never stop trying to drag you back into the mess they've made. I thought about calling Derek, telling him, watching his world implode the way mine had. But I didn't. Because that would mean letting them back in. That would mean giving them power over me again. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat down at the piano, and played until my fingers ached. Christmas came. My father flew to Boston and stayed in a hotel nearby. We spent the day together, quiet and tentative, navigating the new terrain of our relationship. He apologized again, and this time I let myself hear it. I let myself forgive him, not completely, but enough. Enough to move forward. We walked through the public garden, the snow crunching under our boots. We had dinner at a small Italian restaurant in the North End. We talked about my mother, about my grandfather, about the future. He told me he was proud of me. That took my breath away. "For what?" I asked. "For leaving. For building something new. For not letting what happened destroy you." He squeezed my hand. "Your mom would be so proud of you, Emma. I know I haven't always been the father you needed, especially after she died, but I'm trying, and I'm proud of the woman you've become." I cried then, right there on Hanover Street, and he held me while tourists and locals streamed past us, the city alive and indifferent and beautiful. In January, the divorce was finalized. I received the official documents in the mail, stamped, signed, sealed. I was no longer married to Derek. I was no longer tied to that life. I took the papers to the public garden and sat on a bench near the pond. It was freezing. The the kind of cold that bites through layers. But I didn't care. I read through every page, every clause, every line. And when I was done, I folded them up, put them back in the envelope, and tucked them into my bag. Then I walked home, made myself a cup of tea, and started filling out the application for a graduate program in architectural history at Boston University. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Emma, it's Derek. I know you blocked me, but I need to talk to you. Vanessa told me about the baby. I don't know if it's mine, but if it is, I need to know if you'd ever consider..." I deleted the message before I finished reading it. Then I blocked the number. February arrived with a thaw. The snow melted, revealing the brown grass and skeletal trees underneath. The city felt raw, exposed, waiting for spring. I got my acceptance letter from BU. I'd start in the fall. I went out with the book club to celebrate, and we drank too much wine and laughed too loud, and for the first time in over a year, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Diane pulled me aside at the end of the night. "You look different," she said. "Different how?" "Lighter, like you've set something down." I thought about that, about the weight I'd been carrying, Derek's betrayal, Vanessa's lies, my father's doubt, my own guilt and shame and fear. I thought about the penthouse, this place my grandfather had left me, and how it had become more than just a home. It had become a symbol, a foundation, proof that I could start over, that I could build something beautiful out of wreckage. "I think I have," I said. In March, my father called to tell me the paternity test results were in. The baby was Derek's. "How is he handling it?" I asked, surprised at how little I felt. No anger, no satisfaction, just a vague curiosity. "Not well, from what I hear. Vanessa's apparently demanding child support, and his lawyer's trying to negotiate. It's a mess." "It's not our mess," I said gently. "No," my father agreed. "It's not." We talked for a while longer, about other things. His retirement plans, a trip he was thinking of taking to Ireland, my graduate program. Before we hung up, he said, "I'm coming to visit in April, if that's okay." "I'd like that," I said, and I meant it. Spring came to Boston like a revelation. The trees in the public garden burst into bloom, magnolias and cherry blossoms and dogwoods, clouds of pink and white against the blue sky. The swan boats returned to the pond. Tourists filled the streets. The city felt alive again. I felt alive again. I started volunteering at a women's shelter in Dorchester, teaching resume workshops and interview skills. It was Diane's idea. She volunteered there too, offering pro bono legal advice. "You'd be good at it," she'd said. "And it might help. Helping other people, I mean." She was right. There was something grounding about sitting across from women who were rebuilding their lives, who were scared and hopeful and determined, just like I had been, just like I still was some days. I couldn't fix their problems, but I could listen. I could offer practical advice. I could remind them that they weren't alone. One afternoon, a woman named Tasha, mid-30s with 2 kids and a restraining order against her ex, asked me how I'd done it, how I'd left. "I had help," I said honestly. "A good lawyer, financial resources, privilege. Not everyone has that." "But you still had to do it," she pressed. "You still had to make the choice. How did you know it was the right one?" I thought about that. About the moment I'd stood in my hallway in Seattle, watching Derek kiss Vanessa. About the moment I'd called Monica. About the moment I'd signed the divorce papers. "I didn't," I said. "I was terrified. But I knew staying would destroy me. So I chose the fear I could survive." She nodded slowly. "The fear you could survive. I like that." My father visited in April, and I gave him a tour of the penthouse. He walked through the room slowly, touching the furniture, the books, the piano. "He would have loved knowing you were here," he said quietly. He always believed you were meant for something bigger than you realized." "I'm starting to believe it too," I said. We spent the weekend together, walking through the city, visiting museums, eating at restaurants I'd discovered. We didn't talk about Vanessa or Derek or the baby. We talked about the future instead. About my program, about his plans, about whether he'd ever consider moving to Boston himself. On his last night, we sat on the roof deck of the penthouse, a space I'd had cleaned and furnished over the winter, and watched the sun set over the city. "I'm sorry I failed you," he said suddenly. I looked at him surprised. "Dad, you didn't—" "I did. After your mom died, I was so lost, and I let someone into our lives who hurt you. I chose her over you when you needed me most. That's a failure, and I'm sorry." I reached for his hand. "You didn't choose her over me. You were manipulated. We both were. But you believed me in the end. That's what matters. I should have believed you from the start. Maybe, but you're here now. That counts for something." He squeezed my hand, and we sat in silence as the sky turned pink and gold and purple, the city lights beginning to twinkle below. In May, I started preparing for the graduate program. I bought textbooks, set up a study schedule, reached out to professors. I felt like a student again, nervous and excited and full of possibility. I also started dating. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and dinners, getting to know people without the pressure of building a future. It felt strange at first, like learning a language I'd forgotten. But slowly, I remembered what it was like to be seen as myself, not as someone's wife or someone's stepdaughter or someone's victim. Just Emma. Just me. One night, sitting on my couch with a book and a glass of wine, my phone buzzed. A text from Diane. "Proud of you. You know that, right?" I smiled. "Thank you. For everything." "Anytime. We're having book club next week. Margaret picked a thriller. You in?" "Absolutely." I set my phone down and looked around the penthouse, the space I'd made mine, filled with light and books and possibility. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, standing in that hallway in Seattle, watching her life fall apart. I thought about the woman I was now, stronger and softer all at once, scarred but not broken. I thought about my mother, my grandfather, all the people who'd loved me and believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. And I realized something. I was going to be okay. More than okay. I was going to be whole. Summer in Boston was a revelation. The city transformed into something almost Mediterranean. Outdoor cafes spilling onto sidewalks, sailboats on the Charles River, concerts on the Esplanade as the sun set over the water. I spent my evenings on the roof deck of the penthouse, reading or simply watching the city move below me, feeling more at peace than I had in years. My graduate program didn't start until fall, but I'd already begun auditing lectures online, familiarizing myself with architectural theory and history. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be intellectually engaged, to learn something purely because it fascinated me rather than because it advanced my career. It was intoxicating. The women's shelter had become a regular part of my routine. Every Thursday evening, I'd take the T to Dorchester and spend 3 hours working with women who were rebuilding their lives from the ground up. Tasha had become a friend of sorts. We'd exchanged texts throughout the week, and I'd helped her prepare for a job interview at a local nonprofit. When she got the position, she'd called me crying with joy. "I did it," she kept saying. "I actually did it." "You did," I'd told her, my own voice thick with emotion. "You absolutely did." In July, I got an unexpected email from Monica, my divorce attorney. The subject line read, "Thought you'd want to know." I opened it, my heart rate picking up slightly. Emma. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to inform you that Derek's attorney reached out to me last week regarding a situation that's developed. Apparently, Vanessa has filed for full custody of their child and is seeking substantial child support. Derek is contesting it, claiming she deliberately misled him about the paternity, and that she was still involved with your father during the conception window. There's going to be a custody battle. It's going to be ugly. Derek's attorney wanted to know if you'd be willing to provide testimony about the timeline of the affair, given the documentation you provided during your divorce proceedings. You are under no obligation to do so. In fact, I'd advise against it unless you feel it's absolutely necessary. This is not your battle to fight, and involving yourself could reopen wounds you've worked hard to heal. Let me know your thoughts, but please, take care of yourself first. Best, Monica. I read the email twice, then closed my laptop and walked to the window. The public garden stretched out below, green and lush, families scattered across the grass, children running, lovers walking hand in hand. I thought about Derek, about Vanessa, about the child who would grow up in the middle of their chaos, an innocent caught in a web of lies and betrayal. I thought about what Monica had said. This is not your battle to fight. She was right. I wrote back a single line. Thank you for letting me know. I won't be getting involved. Please don't share my contact information with anyone connected to this case. I hit send and felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. In August, my father called with news of his own. I met someone, he said, his voice tentative, almost embarrassed. Dad, that's wonderful, I said, and I meant it. Tell me about her. Her name was Linda. She was a librarian, widowed 3 years prior, with 2 grown sons and a gentle disposition. They'd met at a community center event, bonded over a shared love of history and old movies. She made him laugh. She didn't try to replace my mother. She was simply herself. I'd like you to meet her, he said. Whenever you're ready, no pressure. I'd like that too, I said. We made plans for them to visit in September, after the summer tourists had thinned and before my program began. I felt genuinely happy for him. Happy that he'd found someone kind, someone real, someone who saw him for who he was rather than what he could provide. The book club threw me a grad school send-off party at Margaret's bookstore. There was wine and cheese and an absurd amount of chocolate, and each woman had brought a book they thought I should read during my program. Margaret gave me a first edition of The Architecture of Happiness by Alain de Botton. Diane gave me Designing Your Life, which made us both laugh. Tasha, who I'd invited, gave me a journal with a quote from Maya Angelou on the cover. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. You told your story, she said, hugging me tight. Now go live the next chapter, I cried. They all did. We were a circle of women who'd been broken in different ways, who'd found each other and held each other up. It was the kind of friendship I'd never known I needed. September arrived cool and crisp. My father and Linda came to visit, and I liked her immediately. She was warm without being intrusive, interested without being nosy. She admired the penthouse with genuine appreciation, asked thoughtful questions about my grandfather, and treated me like an adult rather than a child who needed managing. Over dinner at a restaurant in the North End, Linda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Your father talks about you all the time, she said. He's so proud of you. I hope you know that. I looked at my father, who was blushing slightly, and I felt something settle in my chest. Forgiveness, maybe, or simply acceptance. We'd both made mistakes. We'd both been hurt, but we were finding our way back to each other. I know, I said, and I'm proud of him too. My graduate program began the second week of September. I walked into my first seminar, a discussion on Renaissance architecture, feeling nervous and exhilarated. I was the oldest person in the room by at least 5 years, surrounded by bright-eyed 20-somethings fresh out of undergrad. But as the professor began discussing Brunelleschi's dome in Florence, the way he'd revolutionized structural engineering and aesthetic design simultaneously, I felt that spark again, that hunger to learn, to understand, to create meaning. I belonged here. The workload was intense, Reading, writing, site visits, group projects. I spent hours in the library, surrounded by books and blueprints, losing track of time. I made friends with a PhD student named Priya who was researching urban planning in post-colonial cities, and we'd meet for coffee between classes, talking about everything from architecture to politics to our respective disasters in love. "You seem happy," she said one afternoon, stirring sugar into her espresso. "I am," I said, surprised by how true it was. "I really am." In October, I got a letter from Derek. It arrived at the penthouse, forwarded from my old address in Seattle. I recognized his handwriting immediately. For a moment, I considered throwing it away unopened. But curiosity won out. "Emma, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect anything from you. But I needed to write it anyway. I'm sorry. I know that's inadequate. I know it doesn't fix anything or change anything. But I'm sorry for what I did to you, for the lies, for the pain. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. I've been in therapy, court-mandated initially because of the custody situation, but I've kept going even after the requirement ended. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did, why I hurt you, why I destroyed something good. I don't have answers yet. Maybe I never will. But I'm trying. Vanessa and I aren't together. We were never really together, if I'm being honest. It was chaos and selfishness and cowardice. She's a mess. I'm a mess. And there's a child now who deserves better than both of us. I heard you moved to Boston, that you're in grad school. I'm glad. You always deserved more than the life we had in Seattle. More than I could give you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive myself. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. What I threw away, who I hurt, and I'm sorry. I hope you're happy, Emma. I really do. Derek. I read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt nothing, or maybe not nothing, maybe just closure. He was sorry. Good. That was his work to do, not mine. I went back to my reading for class and didn't think about him again. November brought the first snow. I watched it fall from the windows of the penthouse, thick white flakes covering the city like a blanket. I made hot chocolate, curled up on the couch with my laptop, and video called my father. "It's snowing here too," he said, his face filling the screen. Linda appeared behind him, waving. "We're thinking of coming out for Thanksgiving if you'll have us." "I'd love that," I said. We spent Thanksgiving together in the penthouse, the three of us. I cooked turkey, stuffing, roasted vegetables, the apple tart I'd perfected over the past year. We ate slowly, talked about everything and nothing, laughed until our sides hurt. Linda told stories about her sons, about her late husband, about the life she'd built and rebuilt. My father was more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. After dinner, we sat on the roof deck wrapped in blankets, drinking wine and watching the city lights. "Your mother would be so proud of you," my father said quietly. "The woman you've become, the life you've built." "I think about her every day," I said. "I think about Grandpa too. About how this place saved me." "It wasn't the place," Linda said gently. "It was you. The place gave you space, but you did the work." I let that sink in. She was right. I'd done the work. The hard, painful, necessary work of rebuilding myself from the ground up. December came, and with it, the end of my first semester. I submitted my final papers, gave my presentation on the evolution of public spaces in American cities, and collapsed on my couch with a sense of accomplishment I hadn't felt in years. Priya invited me to a New Year's Eve party in Cambridge. "You have to come," she insisted. "You've been working too hard. You need to have fun." I almost said no. But then I thought about the past year, everything I'd survived, everything I'd built. I deserved to celebrate. The party was crowded and loud, full of grad students and professors and friends of friends. I drank champagne, danced badly to music I didn't recognize, laughed with people whose names I'd forget by morning. And as midnight approached, I found myself on the balcony, watching fireworks explode over the Charles River. Priya appeared beside me, handing me a fresh glass of champagne. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," I echoed. We clinked glasses, and as the clock struck midnight and the city erupted in celebration, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt free. In January, I started my second semester. The course load was even heavier, but I didn't mind. I was exactly where I wanted to be, doing exactly what I wanted to do. I kept volunteering at the shelter. I kept going to book club. I kept building the life I'd chosen. One Thursday evening at the shelter, Tasha pulled me aside. "I wanted to show you something," she said, pulling out her phone. It was a photo of her in a cap and gown, her 2 kids beside her, all of them beaming. "I got my GED," she said, tears in her eyes. "And I got accepted to community college. I start in the fall." I hugged her hard. "I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "Yes, you could have," I said firmly, "but I'm glad I got to be part of it." On a cold Saturday in February, I went to the public garden alone. I walked to the bench where I'd sat a year ago, holding my divorce papers, feeling lost and raw and uncertain. I sat down again, in the same spot, and looked around. The pond was frozen, the trees bare, the garden quiet. But I could see the promise of spring underneath. The buds forming on branches, the green shoots pushing through frozen ground. I pulled out my phone and opened my photos. I scrolled through the past year. The penthouse when I first arrived, the book club, my father and Linda, Thanksgiving dinner, New Year's Eve fireworks. I looked at my own face in the pictures and saw the change. The fear had faded. The pain had softened. What remained was strength, hope, possibility. I thought about the woman I'd been, the one who'd stood in a hallway in Seattle, watching her life implode. The one who'd felt small and betrayed and broken. I thought about the woman I'd become, the one who'd walked away, who'd rebuilt, who'd claimed her own life. They were the same woman, but they were also completely different. I stood up, brushed the snow off my coat, and started walking back to the penthouse. My home, my foundation, my new beginning. And as I walked, I realized something that made me smile. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Epilogue. Spring returned to Boston, as it always does. The public garden bloomed, tulips and daffodils, cherry blossoms and magnolias, riots of color against blue sky. I finished my second semester with top grades. I applied for a summer research assistantship and got it. I kept building. My father and Linda got engaged. They planned a small wedding for the fall, and Linda asked if I'd stand with her. I said yes. Derek's custody battle ended with shared custody and mandated therapy for both parents. I heard about it through Monica, who'd heard it through legal circles. I felt a flicker of sympathy for the child, but nothing more. Vanessa sent one final email in late spring. I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me open it. Emma, I don't expect a response. I just wanted to say that I'm in therapy now too. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did, why I hurt so many people. I'm working on becoming someone better, someone I can respect. I know I can never undo the damage, but I'm trying. I hope you're well. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. V. I read it once, then filed it away with Derek's letter. They were artifacts of a past life. They had no power here. On the first day of June, I woke up to sunshine streaming through the windows. I made coffee, sat on the roof deck, and watched the city wake up. Joggers in the garden, dogs being walked, a couple kissing on a bench, life moving forward. I thought about my mother's words, "Don't let anyone make you smaller, Emma." I thought about my grandfather, who'd built beauty for a living and left me the space to rebuild myself. I thought about all the women who'd held me up: Monica, Diane, Margaret, Tasha, Priya, Linda, a constellation of strength. I thought about myself, the woman I'd been, the woman I'd become, the woman I was still becoming. And I realized this was the happy ending. Not because everything was perfect, not because the pain had disappeared, but because I was whole again, because I was mine. I raised my coffee cup to the sky, to my mother, to my grandfather, to the universe that had broken me and then given me the tools to rebuild. "Thank you," I whispered. And then I went inside to start my day. If you've walked through betrayal, through heartbreak, through the shattering of everything you thought was solid, know this: you are stronger than you realize. The foundation you build from the rubble will be yours alone, unshakable and true. And someday, you'll wake up and realize you're not just surviving, you're living, you're whole, and you're exactly where you're meant to be. Thank you for reading Emma's story. If it resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. You're not alone. None of us are.